Jesus said, I came so that they could have life, indeed, so that they could live life to the fullest.
Those words, that's the point for me. This is what following Jesus is about for me. A path to live the days that I have to the fullest. Next Sunday marks 2 years since the pandemic changed the world. And there was that video that came out that has now been watched over 71 million times. It's called The Great Realization. And it's a bedtime story that is told in the future, looking back at how this moment was the one that humanity realized how sick we had become and got better. Here's a bit of the story.
You see, the people came up with companies to trade across all lands, but they swelled and got much bigger than we ever could have planned. We'd always had our wants, but now it got so quick. You could have anything you dreamed of in a day, and with a click. We noticed families had stopped talking. That's not to say they never spoke, but the meaning must have melted, and the work-life balance broke.
The work-life balance broke. I have met 2 people in coffee in the past few weeks who joined the Great Resignation. They walked away from their jobs. They were just done. This past year, record-breaking millions of people in this nation have left their workplaces. It's been likened to a mass union renegotiation where people are looking for better working environments. You've seen this. Restaurants and stores have cut back hours because they can't hire staff. And almost everyone's been hiring. Volunteerism has been incredibly low. People are stepping away from organizations, from commitments, relationships that in their minds didn't seem to hold up their end of the deal and keeping us free from life-draining exhaustion. And like most things, everyone's got an opinion. Some think that this is a natural human response to trauma, which is certainly true. After a traumatic event, a shared one like a pandemic, people will often change jobs and marriages end. Some think that the Great Resignation is because COVID both revealed and exacerbated a lot of conditions of work that we've seen for an extremely long period of time. And people were just not willing to do it anymore. It's safe to say that it's probably not just one thing, but clearly the work-life balance broke. That is true. The Great Resignation is a response to that. People are looking at their work lives and wanting to claim a better one, and that's not a bad thing. One could even say that it is rooted in the gospel hope of living life to the fullest. One might even go so far as to say that God has seen the sickness that we've been in and is inspiring people to make changes. Because sometimes you need to get sick before you can feel better. Sometimes you need something big to happen to you before you're going to take the steps necessary and needed for wellness.
In the story of people of faith, there was a time when the church in Jerusalem began to be subjected to vicious harassment. Everyone, except the apostles, was scattered throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria.
The truth was that the early church had become content with just being a presence in Jerusalem. It was the sickness, the trauma of vicious harassment that caused the community to grow and change beyond its comfort. God sometimes works in messed up times for purposes that will ultimately provide for the health, wellness, and abundance of life. Sometimes. And clearly, there are some big movements occurring in our world right now. Movements that will set the tone for the next century or maybe even more. And I'm exhausted. 2 years of this. We're all exhausted and in varying stages of responding to grief or depression or trauma, or maybe a little of all of it combined. We all need some rest, some restoration, some reconnection, and some healing. We need some Sabbath time to reflect on where we are. And we need people that we trust to help us reflect, lest we just react on our fight or flight impulses. So I'm going to suggest 2 really important words that may help. And the words are, so that. Jesus came, lived and died so that you could have a way of living life to the fullest. God blessed Abraham and Sarai's family so that through them, all of the families of earth could be blessed. Right now, we all need some rest, some restoration and healing. So that. Just removing yourself doesn't automatically lead to a better life. Quitting is a response, but it's not necessarily an answer. Now is the moment to consider what a healthy work-life balance looks like for you. Now is a moment to consider your so that. One thing I like about the Great Realization bedtime story is that it proclaims this vision of a better, healthier future. It's a story that encourages you to look at life before COVID and see the sicknesses, the dis-ease that we've had before and imagine how things could be different afterwards. Maybe you do need to resign. Sometimes a relationship is just broken beyond repair. But perhaps now is a time to renegotiate rather than resign. Sometimes people quit everything when what we really need to do is quit a few things to find that healthier work-life balance. Ask yourself, or even better yet, talk to someone you trust and ask, where did I once, or still, find joy in what I'm doing? Are there things that you could change so that you could reclaim the joy and the fullness of life that God intends for you in your relationship with your work? I think the time right now is ripe to have these conversations. I think that many employers are open to these conversations in ways that they weren't before the pandemic. A good friend of mine, I love this guy, he leads a sales team of about 10 people. And like a lot of people, he started working from home during the pandemic. They, just like everybody else, they figured out video meetings with each other, and they figured out how to do video meetings with clients. And they posted their best year of sales ever this past year. And he was really proud of his team for that. Then he just got word that he was expected back in the office this month. And as he and I talked about this, he had some colorful adjectives for his employer. And he knows that he could get another job tomorrow, no question. He could quit so that. As we talked, his so that is that he loves his team. And they're all feeling angry and frustrated and unheard because of a decision that doesn't make sense to them. If his joy is connected to his team, his quitting so that is that his employer suffers, and none of that really answers the question of what matters. Is now the moment to ask for changes going forward that would help all of them find a better work-life balance? Now, it's not that renegotiating is going to make everything perfect, but neither will resigning. Take this moment, though, to, God willing, we are coming to the end of this pandemic soon. Our infection level is as low as it was last summer before the Delta variant. COVID will still be around, but not killing thousands each day. Each of us has a moment now to imagine how things can be healthier, how things could be better in the days ahead. To consider with God's Spirit guiding us through friends and situations toward better days on the path to living this life to the fullest. Will you pray with me? God, your Spirit is with us now in this moment of reflection as we consider the work, the service in our lives. We belong to you, and your will is for all people to live this life fully and passionately. Help us now negotiate the moment of change after the isolation and trauma of the 2 years is past. Give us time and space and people that we can trust so that we can live with meaning and purpose to find that way. Hear us as we reflect and pray as we sing.